Welcome to Backstreet Gossip, current events, news talk, and political commentary. Now here's your host, Ron Ludders.
How many people are being sent to the to Fort Bliss, and how does the general community feel about that?
Well, I think people are concerned here. We definitely have a divide. The problem is that, we don't have any transparency from the government. Yes, they tell us they're vetted, but are we really going to rely on a third world country to have proper documentation? And how many of these documents, I'm sure all of us have watched the images of men standing there waving their papers. There's a lot of corruption in these countries, and we're gonna trust that these men belong to those documents. It's the same thing that we have here in on the border. If you want a fake passport, everybody knows where to go get one.
Yes.
Fake social security card, everybody knows where to get one. And then we have real people victimized where their identity is stolen. My brother-in-law, who is actually born in Mexico, naturalized U.S. citizen, he was a victim of identity theft, where they actually cut off his phone because he's allegedly lived in Kansas. And when they called the phone company and they're like, "What are you doing?" They said, "Well, how can you prove?" So every year, when it's tax time, he has to prove that he's him because he's a victim of identity theft. And so we're relying on these people in this country that where there's a lot of corruption, that these documents actually belong to those people, even if they were vetted when they were in Afghanistan. Even if it did happen, how can we prove that these people are who they say they are? And I think the last number I heard here was about 1,200.
And of course, we do know that Afghanistan is the home of terrorism, and we know that in your country, in El Paso, I'm not sure when it was, a couple of years ago now. It just seems like yesterday. Had that horrible shooting at the the Costco or Walmart?
It was at Walmart, yes.
And I don't know how long ago that was, but that was a horrible thing. And then to put people into the country into the United States that we know that they train people to be terrorists, and they seem to enjoy killing Americans and causing all kinds of trouble. That's got to be very dispiriting.
Well, and we also have the illegal unaccompanied minors in Fort Bliss. So we have a base that if you don't have proper documentation, an El Pasoan can't get on base. And now we have all the illegal unaccompanied minors. Now we have these so-called Friends of America that they've been vetted in Fort Bliss. They're coming in and out as they please. They're not restricted to one area of Fort Bliss, that we know. But even Senator Cruz was here last week, and in the interview he said, "We just don't know. This administration is not being transparent." I have spoken with many soldiers that are in Fort Bliss, and none of them are happy with having them in the base. Yet our representative, who is Beto O'Rourke's puppet, she says that the soldiers call them their guests, that they're happy that they're there. It's a blatant lie. And again, our representative here in El Paso, Veronica Escobar, she's the one that said that El Paso's the new Ellis Island.
Oh, yes.
She doesn't care for Americans. This is putting our children in jeopardy. Even if you have one terrorist, do you think it's worth the safety of our families here in El Paso?
No.
And nobody seems to care.
Yeah. And the comments about Ellis Island. Ellis Island was very tightly controlled. If you didn't meet the rules to become at least a visitor and potential citizen in the country, You had health standards. And if you couldn't pass, if you had COVID today, they would have put you on the boat and sent you back. They would not have allowed
Right.
you into the country. And I mean, I
Well, it was our
recognize.
immigration system. It was the immigration system of the time, and they had to follow the process. And that's all we're asking. We're asking people, we're not against immigration. We're asking people to do it the right way. You know, illegal immigration hurts everybody, including the illegal immigrant. How many illegal immigrants are being victimized right at this moment?
Oh
They're
yes,
in a situation of slavery, of prostitution. Children are used as a commodity, and the only ones that are benefiting are the leftist politicians and the cartels and the corrupt governments.
yes, yes. Now you're running for Congress. What on earth is wrong with you thinking that you want to put yourself in that position?
Well, you know, it was back in 2016 that my husband was sent to Washington, D.C. for his job. And we were supposed to be there. He was supposed to be there a month. It turned out to be 6 months. And we were blessed to be at President Trump's inauguration, which was a gift from the Lord. At that time that we were in D.C., I really felt that the Lord was calling me to get back to El Paso and get involved civically. One of the things that we have here is because we have 83% Hispanic. In the Hispanic, very Mexican culture, including the culture, you know, the home that I grew up in, because my parents are Mexican immigrants, um, voting is not a priority. It's not like you turn 18 and your parents take you to the post office and you get registered and you get involved. So for a lot of the people that actually come from Mexico, they don't see the benefit of voting. So this is a cultural problem. Why? Because in Mexico, it's very corrupt. And people
Hmm.
say, why do we vote? It doesn't matter. They're going to do whatever they want anyways. And so it was very hard for my parents to even accept the fact that I was getting involved. I actually helped the last congressional candidate before me when he lost in 2018, which was the first time she won. There, Beto O'Rourke was running for Senate when he ran against Ted Cruz, so he didn't run again for the House. So she ran, and then she won. The day after, I received a call, and from from the Republican Party of Texas, a lady that worked with them at that time, and she asked me to consider running, and because of my Hispanic identity and a woman, she said, you know, another Hispanic woman has to run. And so it was very hard work. I ran in 2020. We doubled the Republican vote, and now I've never stopped running. We've been working since November the 4th because we can't lose all the ground that we have gained.
Well, thank you
And
so much
I
for
bel
that.
and I believe El Paso is Republican. Our values as a Hispanic community are very
I never could
conservative.
understand that way because I had a house down in Mexico, and I
Okay.
could not believe, very religious, very family oriented, very youth oriented, and I
Well, we're
was.
not going to put it all on the Democrats. Where have the
Well,
Republicans been?
exactly, and we're just as hard on the Republicans here as we are on the Democrats. And
Good.
my compadre here, a little Spanish lingo there, and
I didn't know you were multilingual
I
there,
am
Ron.
multilingual. Any rate, he ran for state senate here. Unfortunately, he ran against a legend, a woman that had been in there for like 48 years or so,
Yeah.
Ray.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
but at any rate, so I do want to thank you. Now, Ray, I've got a little secret. You're not going to believe this. I was talking to Irene, and we happen to know the U.S. representative from the district just north of her in New Mexico, Yvette. And
Yeah.
and she was in the kind of the same boat you were. She ran one time and lost, and then she jumped in again, and this time she won. So this is
Yeah.
I hope this is a precursor for your future.
We're actually squished in between two Republican districts, Yvette's and Tony Gonzalez's. What happened with Yvette is that the RNC pumped in a lot of money into that district, and that made a world of difference. And that's what I'm getting at is we are, by values standard, we are a Republican city, but the Republicans have completely ignored El Paso. So it takes a lot of money and it takes a lot of hard work, and that's the lesson I learned from 2020. We need the money. We worked very hard. We knocked on thousands of doors, and that's why we were able to double the Republican vote. And also, she is so disliked by even her own party, Veronica Escobar. I have big time, lifelong Democrats call me at least once a week. I get a call where they're telling me I can't stand her. The JFK Democrats are so sick of Beto and Veronica Escobar and their progressive mentality. You know, you mentioned the shooting at the Walmart 2 years ago. It was in 2019, August the 3rd. This is my Walmart. This is the Walmart I shop at. I live a mile away from that Walmart.
Oh my!
It just so happened that the day before we left out of town on our family vacation. But my friend called me as we were leaving Phoenix, as a matter of fact, because we spent the night in Phoenix. And she said, Irene, did you guys leave? And I said, yes. She goes, good. Mando, who's her husband, is a police officer. He's on his way to Walmart, by your Walmart. You know, everybody owns a Walmart here. Your Walmart. Your Walmart, because there's an active shooter. And I was driving and I had to pull over because I lost where we were going. I couldn't believe this was happening in my hometown, because we are a very giving, loving. When people come to El Paso, that's one of the things they talk about. The people are so nice. But part of it is, you mentioned Beto. He is his speech is, and his rhetoric is so full of bigotry that it has divided people. And of course, we have the media that's on their side. They completely ignore us. So any ground we gain, the media can't say that they helped. And the contrary, they try to hurt us. But that's part of the problem, that you have that Beto factor that is not just Democrat. They're completely progressive, liberal, 100% on the opposite end of what we stand for. And it's funny because our representative, I get asked on the street if I'm her. We resemble each other. But because she has a lot more years, I mean, she's been in politics, I think 14 to 15 years. And so people ask me if I'm her, but we couldn't be more opposite. I stand for life. I stand
God
for
bless you
progress.
for that.
I stand for family. I stand for freedom. I stand for everything that this country was founded on. And she is on the opposite end. She's anti-life, anti-progress, anti-democracy, anti-family and faith, and we're like completely opposites.
Wow. Now, Irene, so at Fort Bliss right now, you said there's about 1,200 immigrants that are coming in. Now,
That's the last number.
The last number, okay. So the reports that I've been getting is that people have been coming over. They don't necessarily speak English. I don't know if that's true or not, but you talked about the vetting process, and just because they say that they've been vetted. So let's think this thing through, right? If they're vetted by a corrupt government, who a lot of the people in that situation, especially now with the Taliban, want to do harm to the U.S., wouldn't they say, oh yeah, this guy's really good, just to send him over here to possibly cause
Would seem
issue?
that would make sense, yes.
Yeah. All right. So, you know, Ron and I talk a lot on this program about America being an idea, No matter where
Right.
you come from in the world, whether you're from Germany, France, Spain, Portugal, wherever you come from, the idea is I want to be an American. It's e pluribus unum, out of many one. So the assimilation factor is so very important. Now, if we have refugees that are coming in to America just because they want to leave there, it doesn't necessarily mean that they want the idea of being an American. They don't necessarily agree with our laws that are set up, the Constitution.
To share our values.
To share our
that
values.
make us Americans.
And to assimilate in. Because the whole concept is, out of many, we have one idea, we
Right.
have one foundation, because then we can all get along. So is the plan in El Paso specifically to to take these refugees, reestablish them in one tiny community so they have a core of like that is a separate area for them? Or are they going to put them throughout other areas where they assimilate into the American dream, the American way? What is the ultimate plan for these 1,200, I'll put in quotes, vetted people? What's the game plan?
Well, one of the things that that we have to learn from our history, right? If we don't learn from our past, we're doomed to repeat the same mistakes.
Right.
And when all this started happening, the only thing I could think of was Ilhan Omar. She came as a refugee, and look at what we have in Congress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
Anti-American.
Exactly. We as a country demand that people assimilate. Like my parents. I always go back to my parents because my parents are the greatest example. They came to the United States legally to give their children a better life. We were all born in El Paso, but at the beginning of my life, I lived in Ciudad Juarez, which is our neighbor city. One day my dad came home from work and it was winter. Now in Mexico, you lose electricity, you lose gas. It just happens. It's switched off and it just kind of goes away.
Yeah, the infrastructure is not the same as in the United States.
And so my dad came home from work and he was a trash collector at Fort Bliss at this time. And so he comes home and he finds my mom, my older sister, and myself under the blankets. And he says, "What's going on?" My mom says, "We lost the gas. There's no gas for the heater." And they said that was the pivotal point. They already had their legal residency, but they weren't living in the United States. And they said, "Why are we suffering in Juarez? Let's go to El Paso." And that's what shifted them to El Paso. And now their allegiance, do they go to Ciudad Juarez? Of course they do. They go to church. They're very mission oriented. We still have a lot of family in Ciudad Juarez, but they know what this country has given them. On May the 15th of 2019, I received an invitation to go to the Rose Garden and listen to President Trump's remarks on immigration reform. And I know the date because that's my dad's birthday. I went to lunch with them, with my mom and my dad, and I said, "I just received this invitation." And it was for the next day. It was crazy because it was for the next day. And my husband's like, "We're going to pay whatever we need to pay because how often do you get an invitation to go to the Rose Garden?" And so I looked at my parents and I said, "Mom, Dad, if I meet President Trump, what is your message to them?" And my very Mexican mother, with tears in her eyes. Now, remember what was happening May of 2019. It was this immigration, not the first, we've been dealing with this for a while, but it was during the immigration crisis when President Trump was still president. And she looked at me with tears in her eyes and she says, "Tell him to take care of Americans first."
Wow.
Maybe that's where he got his America First.
Yeah.
I didn't get to meet him. So I wasn't able to deliver the message to him. What I'm saying is that for anybody that tells you that Hispanics or legal Mexicans or immigrants that have come here to the United States legally, or the children of immigrants that are here, that were here legally, that they tell you that we're for illegal immigration or any of the stuff that's going on, it is a blatant lie.
Yes,
Well,
Because we came for, my parents came for a reason,
I have
and
seen
they
that.
don't get to usurp that. They don't get to override it. And so what we're seeing is like the corruption is like a boiling pot. And now with Biden in office, it's like somebody turned on
it's
the
just letting
heat.
people come in, just open the doors and let people in.
yeah.
Exactly.
So, Irene,
so
I'm
we're
not.
getting them from both sides.
I'm not
Go
sure
ahead.
if Ron wanted to get into this or not, but there was a big Supreme Court case in Texas
Yes.
just last week,
Oh,
and
yes.
your opponent there, I'm sure, is going absolutely
You mean the
ballistic.
right to life?
The right-
Well, didn't
yes.
you see the fake
Abortion.
crying of Beto O'Rourke on
Yeah. He was
all the
crying.
fake crying? Oh, allegedly crying.
Yeah.
Somebody was probably pinching him.
Well, Ron and I talk a lot about the states' rights. They're all individual countries that have come together, and it's the states who formed the federal government. The federal government is not
Did not
supposed
form
to be,
the
it
states.
didn't form the states. So it's the United States of America. Now, you representing the great state of Texas,
Right.
when you get in there, states' rights are being usurped all the time. You have Nancy Pelosi sending in the Capitol Police to set up little outlets in each one of the states. For what reason? Good reason. For what good reason, we don't know. But when the President of the United States and the Speaker of the House say, we will use the full backing of the federal government to make sure that the women of Texas have reproductive rights, or reproductive health care, or however they want to do it, that really rubs me the wrong way, because where does the federal government get that authority to go against any state, whether it's Texas or Hawaii, to go up and use the full force to force a state to do something that the duly elected officials have already voted and the governor has signed? So where are you on that from your position running for U.S. Congress?
So one of the things that is on my agenda is to shrink the federal government and take back the United States
Amen.
to its constitutional beginnings
And its
If
limitations.
I'm reading a book. I mean, I'm strong about what the authority of and the lack of power that the federal government should have. One of the things that I'm 100% against are executive orders. I don't care if it's a Republican president or a Democrat president. Never was the idea of our founding fathers to have the executive branch legislate.
Right.
And now to have the executive threatening the people of the states, they never have had that authority. But we, the people, have allowed it. We fell asleep at the wheel, and we didn't stop them at the beginning. Now we have a big job to do, and it's not going to be popular amongst the establishment on either side, which, by the way, I'm against, because they are filling and lining their pockets with money that comes from power that they shouldn't have. How dare Biden? How dare Pelosi tell my state, tell me individually as a woman, as a mother and a grandmother and a wife, that they will defend women's right to murder the most helpless of our society?
Yeah.
How dare they?
Yeah,
You're
to
certainly
your point,
you're certainly one of us. That's for sure.
to your point, and Ron, I don't know if you saw this, but this is very interesting. How you said that the executive branch is legislating and they're making decisions. They're taking out the the Congress, or they're not even considering the Congress and decisions that they make. This said, Joe Biden stopped the Pentagon from providing a report to Congress about the withdrawal from Afghanistan. Did you read this? This was from the Washington Free Beacon. President Joe Biden waived a mandate back in June that would have forced the Pentagon to provide a detailed report to Congress about the risks of leaving Afghanistan. Under the federal statute, the administration was barred from reducing troops in Afghanistan below 2,000 without first briefing Congress about the expected impact on U.S. counterterrorism operations and the risk to American personnel. Biden waived the mandate in June, arguing that providing this information to Congress could undermine the national security interest of the United States. And it goes on. So here's just another example of the president saying, you know what, I really don't need Congress to decide what's going to happen. You know, this happened with the whole immigration issue that Obama passed with regard to changing immigration law. What is it? What's the name of the I'm
the
losing
asylum?
here. It's for the kids who were here.
The unaccompanied minors?
Yes, yeah. What was the name of that executive order that he did? DACA. He did this executive order for DACA. He totally bypassed Congress and the laws that they had already passed with regard to immigration via executive order fiat. And then when President Trump came in and said, I'm just rescinding DACA on an executive order, people were in an uproar. It's almost as though we think that the executive branch can make law. We talked about the Supreme Court making law, where they make an opinion on one case and people say, well, it's the law of the land, the Supreme Court has spoken. They forget that they don't pass laws.
Exactly. They don't have that power.
Well, there's that thing, you know, that they seem to believe they have the power to mandate, they have the power to order, and then there's the power of law. Law
Right.
usurps all of those. It's primary. I get upset over this constantly when, you know, we can get into this. We're not going to, because we got to take a break here, and we'll let you go for the for the evening, what's left of it. But that is, people have certain rights, but you don't have the right to do something that violates my rights. And if I elect a congressman to make laws, I don't expect the CDC, for an example, to make a law and tell me I got to do this.
No, but that's what Joe Biden did. He said,
That's
well, I
exactly
can't
what he
mandate
did.
this, but the CDC, or I can't extend. It was for the people who were renting, right? The renter credit and all of that.
Right.
Listen, Irene, how do we get in touch with you? How do we find out a little bit more about you? How can we support your campaign? Give us the website.
TakeBackUSCongress.com.
Oh, I love it.
That's easy. TakeBackUSCongress.com.
That's awesome.
Yes.
I even got that.
That's awesome.
Yes, that's
Wow.
my website.
All right, Ron, you have another chance to pronounce her name.
I'm just going to say good night, Wendy. Irene Jackson. One time was good. I'm not going to try it
Come
again.
on, Ron, you gotta help us out here.
Hey, I'm going to be in touch with you, because there's some other things I think that maybe we can be of assistance to you with as well.
Excellent.
So we do thank you for spending a Labor Day evening with us and our audience, and we will talk to you soon. Thank you so much
Tell
for
the
coming
people
on
of
the show.
Texas about Hub Radio Phoenix here. Have them.
Tell them
Will
Hug Radio
do.
Phoenix
Yeah.
is their friend.
It is.
Yes.
Thanks,
Will do.
Irene.
God bless you.
Best
and
of
it's
luck
been
to
an
you.
honor.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take back US
Bye now. Yes.
.com.
.com. That's
Awesome.
easy, and it's true. Okay. Lots more to come. Don't go away. Hub Radio Phoenix is an internet-based podcast platform providing numerous special interest programs reaching over 100,000 viewers per week. Hi, I'm Ron Ludders, executive producer of Hub Radio Phoenix. We don't pretend to be journalists, but we're not afraid to say what's on our minds. We thank you for watching, liking, sharing, and subscribing to Hub Radio Phoenix. Stay tuned, stay faithful, as the best is yet to come.